and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Just a catching strays over here.
You're in for a hell of a show.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Well, it is a special Friday night episode of the Ruthless Variety Program. I am Josh Holmes, along with Comfortably Smug, Michael Duncan, John Ashbrook. Left to right across your radio dial, as always, fellas, we are here in prime time. We're going to get you through the weekend.
That's right. I mean, there's a lot of late-breaking news. We've got the analysis on the polls, and we've got some fun, too. I mean, it's a Friday night. Have a cocktail.
Have a
Enjoy
cocktail,
some time with the fellas.
huh? Have a cocktail. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one.
We're going to tell you everything you need to know about where things sit, give you our best analysis of where things are going. Obviously, we'll be back with you next Tuesday to give you a recap of everything that's happened. But at the end of the week, I feel like our people, of all people, they deserve a recap.
Well, and there's been so much good news this week. It'd be a shame not to enjoy that with friends.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But tonight's about fun.
Yeah,
Right?
It is about fun.
We're not reading TPS reports. We're not like reading people the New York Times. We're having fun. Captains of enjoyment.
Captains of enjoyment.
Yeah.
We should maybe put that on a T-shirt, huh?
Yeah.
Well, remember, you got to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe, like and subscribe. We've not done a ton of these live situations, but we like them. And we come to you raw and uncut, as we always do, to be honest with you. I mean, I think Wolf and Spaghettis would tell you there's no trimming to this show. I mean, what you get, for better or worse, is what we say. And here we are. So anyway, the one thing we wanted to lead with, late breaking.
Like very late-breaking news.
Like literally as we were sitting down, Smug brought to our attention a situation that presented itself between Joe Biden and Barack Obama, where the New York Post intervened to try to figure out what they were saying to each other. Can you set this up?
That's
Smug?
right. Can we get that clip, Spaghettis? So Joe Biden and Barack Obama are at the funeral for Ethel Kennedy, and the New York Post hires a professional lip reader. And it says right here, President Biden griped to former President Barack Obama, that quote referring to Kamala, "She is not as strong as me," with Obama agreeing that's true. In a stunning off-mic conversation deciphered for the Post by a professional lip reader. I mean, this is the thing. We all saw it during her sit-down with Bret Baier. I think everyone knows it at this point. Kamala's a terrible candidate, and we've been talking about how there's this back and forth going on between the Biden camp and the Kamala camp of Biden's folks being like, she's even worse than we could have imagined. Everyone's starting to hedge, blame each other ahead of the loss that they think Kamala is headed towards. And you see it right there from the head honchos right now of the Democratic Party. Biden and Obama on the same page being like, she's a pretty terrible candidate.
Can we pull that video up one more time? Because I love the New York Post. I just want to see for myself exactly what it looks like. He's saying, no, she's a dumbass. And then Biden said, "You're telling me I've worked with her for 3.5 years." I'm not the expert, but it looks like that's what he's saying.
Well, I mean, you got to remember there was a time between that terrible debate performance that Joe Biden had and when they made the switch, where Joe Biden was out there publicly arguing, like, all the polls show I'm still the strongest candidate to take on Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And I mean, implicit in that was like, you don't actually want her. You think you might want her, but you don't. And I mean, we've said it for a few months now. If she does lose this race, it'll be the funniest. It'll be the funniest thing.
Oh, it'll be the funniest.
The funniest thing when they all throw her under the bus and they're like, it should have been me.
Well, I mean, the rampant misogyny, first of all.
Right.
I mean, look, they'll backstop all of this by saying America is sexist and racist.
That's what they'll start with.
Right? They'll start with. And then internally, they'll be like, I don't know, we've lost to Trump twice. 2 out of 3. We had 2 women. And then you'll see this like systematic misogyny, the real misogyny.
Oh yeah,
which is
not the kind that they like to accuse everybody else of.
It's what Democrats do.
Yeah, the real kind where they're like, it's not that she's dumb. It's not that she can make any answer to any like very obvious question. It's not that she's a political like troglodyte in terms of how she manages her own messaging. It's not that she's like never really won anything before. We just can't run women.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what will be the post-November Democratic takeaway, in my view. If
Right.
they
It's
lose
not
this
her
election.
fault. It's just America's irredeemable in its own misogyny.
And we have to be aware of its irredeemability. And they'll make a very like pious case internally, be like, look, we have to work on that irredeemability.
But like, how do you do that? Like, how can that be the message of the Democratic Party? And then also, the current president of the United States, Joe Biden, is out there through all of his surrogates off the record being like, nah, she sucked. She was terrible. Because, like, see, that is the hypocrisy, right?
But do you think they like
No, they
consistency
will.
is a problem?
No, they will. I think it's just worth, pointing out, like, that's what will happen. Like, publicly, they will be like, it's America that's misogynistic. Meanwhile, he will be knifing her in every article through Christmas.
And so, some insight I want to offer on this is, I don't know if it's very well known, but frequently when there's a Democrat primary, as there was in 2020, I have in my DMs Democrat operatives show up when there's a primary and give me some oppo on their opponent and trash their opponents, be like, oh, if you could get this out there, it would be great. Because for them, they can trash an opponent in a Democrat primary and have no fingerprints. They're like, oh, it's those mean Republicans. They're at it again. Let me tell you, one of my takeaways from this experience is Kamala's folks, Biden's folks, they don't like each other one bit. And that has not changed since 2020.
Interesting.
You hear from these folks when they're willing to talk, I'm more than happy to hear Democrats say terrible things about each other.
It's funny. It is funny, though, just to take a step back and recognize that, like, Smug's Twitter account in a Democratic primary, it's like,
Bit effective.
the campaigns are like the Ayatollah, and he's like one of the Iran proxies, right? Out there just causing mayhem.
They're like, well, he's not exactly on our team, but like,
Right.
I'd like that to get out there anyway.
Yeah,
so
like,
maybe
like Charlie Wilson, like he's Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
It's just like keep funding Smug. Like,
what?
get
Send
him
him
the
a couple-
oppo.
send him a couple
Have-
missiles.
Have him fight the Soviets.
My conclusion on that is that Smug is a journo.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's why he and I get along so well. He's
right.
one of my buddies.
And I mean,
Smug is actually one of my buddies. He's a journo buddy.
but like one of
Democrats
the things that
text him.
You know what? That's it. It's all been projection this whole time.
But like one of the things that like a lot of the Biden folks and other not Kamala folks have conveyed to me is we've all seen the headlines that she has tremendous staff turnover constantly. And they say her central problem as an individual is like folks during that interview she had with Brett Baird, they're like, does she not have any talking points? Was she not prepared? She can have staff prepare her.
Right.
And then she'll go out there and she'll blow it. And then she'll come back and tell the staff who tried preparing her, you failed.
and yell at the staff.
And yell at the staff.
Well,
and
I mean,
that's
she
why
did go
no one
through.
wants to work. That's the thing. That's why she keeps going through is because if you show up to work every day, try to help somebody, and they blow it and blame it on you, you don't want to work in that environment.
No.
That's why. And we're seeing it in practice. She is a terrible candidate. You can't help this woman.
You know, the other thing I've heard is that staff will assemble a gigantic book at her request, and then she won't crack it.
No,
Like,
come on.
I've
Are you
heard.
serious?
I've heard she's actually kind of lazy.
Wait, she like requests?
Yeah, she
Do they
dem-
put together
dem-
like a 3-ring binder of stuff, and then she'd have them go?
demands it, and then like all the tabs go unread.
Come
she's-
on.
this is what I've heard. It's a single source Democrat, but it's a Democrat.
Oh,
Incredible.
And somebody would know.
I would, yeah,
Somebody who
somebody
would know.
would know.
Oh man. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in here to the special Friday episode. I hope that you've had a good week. I know we certainly have. We've gone through a whole bunch of stuff. Our attempt here this evening is to sort of recap the week that was, give you a little preview of the week to come, and then give you an idea of where the race sits. So we're gonna go through some stuff. We'll go through some polls. We'll tell you what we think it means, and then we're kind of screw around a little bit, just a little bit.
Great idea.
Just some goofs and some fun.
All right, so pour yourself one. Here we go. Graphic 1, please, Spaghetti. Graphic 1 shows the Electoral College top battlegrounds. And this is from where is this?
It's a Real Clear Politics.
Yeah, it's
Is
the
it real-
average.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real Clear Politics. This is the average. You can see there's a red number there. And
It looks. I don't see real good there, Holmes. It looks higher than the blue one.
You know, I don't. Hey, listen, we're getting older. What are we looking at here? I don't know. It looks like it's a top there.
Oh no.
Oh, that's like let's go to like a straight Midwesterner.
Yeah.
We all have a little bit of that in
Well,
it.
do you remember Farley used to do that bit on SNL? Looky there. Do we got old Bill Shakespeare?
Well. What do we have here? No, I mean, look, over the last 2 weeks, it started with the J.D. Vance vice presidential debate, which we correctly called at the time was going to be something that they didn't actually predict to be a factor in this election. Mm-hmm. Now, you can see it started a little bit earlier. We also talked about this in July and August, about how she was going to get an 8-week runway of basically this sort of like fanfare out of the mainstream press, where they don't ask her any questions or anything else. But on the back end of that, she's going to have to actually put in some legwork. So you can see it kind of like come together. Put this up one more time. You can see it come together right about Labor Day.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then it starts spreading out, and then all of a sudden you get a J.D. Vance debate where people heard the argument framed up in a way that they actually hadn't heard up to that point, because they're dealing with two, at least in the case of Trump, a ubiquitous personality everyone knows and everybody has an opinion on. So the upward or downward mobility of Donald Trump is basically the same. It is what it is. But when you get a guy like JD that shows up on stage and that frames up this race in a way that totally contradicts the way the Democrats have tried to frame it up as a change election and she's an agent of change, people start thinking about that. And they start thinking about the economy, their own pocketbooks, immigration, what it means to their economy, to their own communities, all of those things. It starts to widen out a little bit. And then Kamala Harris and her campaign are actually looking at the same thing. Mm-hmm. They're seeing 1 day, 2 day, 3 days where it's starting to dip. Shit, we got to get her out there. We got to do something about this.
Right.
So they unleash the media campaign. So they send Kamala Harris and Tim Walz out, and Lord knows we've covered for 2 weeks what that's meant. Mm-hmm. Not good, Bob.
I mean,
No.
that is, if you're that campaign, that's a tough situation where they're like, okay, we're going to deploy our most important asset, the actual candidate. Okay, now polls are worse since we've done that. Now what the hell do you do? If putting your candidate out there makes things worse, what options do you have left?
Well, let me tell you, there were two fundamentally different but also similar things that happened right around the same time. Remember what the media said about J.D. Vance before the debate. Cat lady, cat lady, cat lady. That's the only thing you need to know about J.D. Vance's cat lady. Everybody tunes into the debate. And they watch him, and they're like, wait a minute, I've been lied to.
Yep.
Yeah.
And with Kamala Harris, everything they said about Kamala Harris, leader, change, different, better. And after the debate, people tune into Kamala Harris. What do they find out? Idiot, incapable,
Yeah.
the worst person to put forward for president of the United States. And I think that what you saw at that inflection point is the difference between people who are like, I believe my own eyes, and people who are still like,
That's a
yeah, the
great
media is
point.
not lying.
That's
to
a
me.
really good
in a
point.
post-Labor Day environment is just like people deciding to like give this election a real look.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they've had summer, kids now are back in school, and now they're going to think about the election. I mean, I think it was that sugar high. It was after replacing Biden with Kamala, all the Democrats snapping back and supporting the ticket. The only thing that got them to get shaky was Joe Biden's brain melting on national television in that debate. You got to remember, like, these Democrats, like, were still behind him 100%, like, while he was having dementia in the Oval Office and being a terrible president. All of that was fine. But the second that they thought he might lose to Donald Trump,
That's right.
now suddenly
Then
they
it was
got
the
worried.
problem.
So Kamala comes in, the snapback happens, all those Democrats are back on board. That was going to happen. They're lemmings. We know this, folks. They don't actually give a shit about anything. They're going to vote blue no matter who. They say it themselves, right? But any independent-minded American got to learn a lot about Kamala Harris, to your point, Ashbrook, over the last month, and they didn't like what they saw.
Yeah.
Well, if you're voting because your vote matters or you're voting because you have principle, you're not going to like what you saw out of Kamala Harris.
Right.
I mean, they framed an entire DNC convention around the idea that she's very different than Joe Biden, that she basically just showed up. And like everything happened because of this crazy old man, and she's new and she's fresh and she's a new generation of leadership and all of these things. But like then you watch it and she's asked, what would you do differently? And she says, I can't think of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And like all of these things, they start to put together. American people are way ahead of where polls and pundits and all of these things are. Like, this is why that mouth is opening. This is why we've had a good 3 weeks, is because the rubber has hit the road.
Mm-hmm.
It is driving down a track where you have Donald Trump doing a audience of CEOs at a Bloomberg thing, for crying out loud. Maybe the most hostile audience you could ever go to for his particular economic policy, getting a standing ovation and then absolutely dog walking the moderator in the process. And then she goes on Brett Baer and she sounds like an absolute idiot. Brett drags her up and down. We're going to get into all of that, all the specifics of that, but I do want to get into some numbers first, because I think the polling deserves a little bit more breakdown than has been given in the national media. Let's go to graphic 2 here. These are the things that matter. These are state-based polls, right? So this is Nevada and Arizona. Nevada was one that Trump had a very big lead over Joe Biden. It evaporated and went back the other way when Kamala Harris got into the race. What you've seen on a week-by-week basis in Nevada is a receding of where Kamala Harris is. See that 48? If you're a listener to this program, if you've listened to anything that we've had to say, I have told you for a year and a half, the reason the Democrats wanted Donald Trump is because they looked at states like this and they said, he can't get over 48.
You know the number 48 if you've been paying attention.
If you've been listening to this program, I have told you what it is that you're looking at right now. That is what they saw. So Kamala Harris gets in the race. She goes from a ceiling, all of a sudden 52, 53, something very different than Joe Biden. All of a sudden it's below 48.
Yep.
It's below 48. It's the same problem that they had with Joe Biden, which is why they changed candidates. It wasn't because they were concerned about his mental acuity.
Right.
They thought they would lose.
And
to your point, Duncan.
And what's happened between the day that they declared that and this day that you're listening to this show? What's happened is that Kamala Harris has been in front of the American people for everybody to see. And so at the beginning of the show, we were all speculating. The New York Post had some ideas on what Barack Obama and Joe Biden were saying to each other. Maybe what they were saying to each other is, interviews for Kamala wasn't such a good idea. Maybe we should just let the press continue to campaign for us, as we always have in the past.
Yeah, maybe we didn't need to say anything in the first place. So put this graphic up one more time, guys, spaghettis. So this is out west, Arizona and Nevada. Truth be told, the Trump campaign needs but one. They need but one. Arizona has been consistently ahead for Donald Trump. This is not something that showed up yesterday or in the last 10, 20 days of this sort of re-rise of Donald Trump. He's been consistently ahead throughout in Arizona. It feels like, although you look at that 48 number, once again, you've seen Democrats dip below the 48 number and stay there. And Kamala hasn't actually been able to crack that 48, right? In any way. Nevada, we just talked about. I mean, look, it's gone up, it's gone down. I do think that they have a ton of institutional advantage with all the nonsense laws that they passed with a Democratic supermajority there, with ballot harvesting and getting the unions to basically just fetter in votes through drop boxes and everything else. Doesn't mean it's fraud. It means that they've actually had a set of laws that particularly advantage one party over another.
Yep.
Right.
That's what Nevada is.
Well, I mean, particularly in a state that's as organized as the unions are in
Nevada.
Clark County.
Yeah, in
Culinary.
Clark County, Nevada.
Activating culinary. That's what they do.
Right.
That's exactly right, Smug. You've said that for years. So you take a look at graphic 3. Let's go to a different set of states. North Carolina and Georgia. So you remember us saying several months ago that there is no pathway to 270 for a Republican president, and certainly not Donald Trump, without winning Georgia and North Carolina. Well, if you have a look, he's leading both. And if you've looked at the polls over the last 10 days, again, this is an aggregate because it's real close politics. You get, some back and forth. You get anomalies. They average it out.
Good thing to look at.
But if you look at, like, the polls over the last 10 days, there's a lead there. There's a lead in both. And it's more comfortable than it was in 2020, albeit very, very close. I happen to believe in North Carolina in terms of its late-breaking vote. I honest to God, think that is not one that is going to be particularly close in terms of like a 1 to 2 point thing. But like, you got to go vote. And I understand there's been natural disasters and they've tried to figure out a way for particular rural voters to get their votes in. And that's a complicating factor that everybody's going to have to grapple with. But I feel good about that. Georgia, dynamic. You got a huge metropolitan area around Atlanta. They've done a ton to try to maximize Democratic votes. But even with that model, and all of these polls bake in that 2020 model, which is basically a high watermark for where Democrats are, Donald Trump's leading. So assuming he takes care of business in these two states, you are going to have multiple pathways to 270. There are no pathways for Kamala Harris without the state of Pennsylvania.
Yep.
None.
This is a really key point right here.
None. So let's go to this next graphic. This is the upper Midwest, Michigan and Wisconsin. I think these are the two most interesting states in the last 20 days.
Yeah, Wisconsin especially.
Because what you've seen, these are two states, obviously, that Donald Trump carried in 2016. He lost both in 2020. Historically, Republicans have had a lot of trouble in both of these states. For example, the last time that Republicans carried a statewide Senate race in the state of Michigan was Spence Abraham in 1999. Right? I mean, this is a long
One-termer.
time. Now, they've had some success at the state level and governors and all these kind of things, Republican state legislatures, but in the federal level, it has become problematic. Him cracking that wall in 2016 was a significant development. But if you look at where things are now, gosh, I mean, a 1 point lead? A 1 point lead, if you believe the things that like Mark Halperin are saying, if you believe the things that Nate Silver are saying, if you believe the things that people who follow this for a living with the chronic undersampling of Trump voters on election day in terms of where these polls are at, boy, that feels a lot more comfortable than it ever did in 2016 and certainly 2020. So that's like, these things have come online. I mean, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, if you'd have said these two states, one of which would have a Trump lead and the other would be an absolute deadlock, 0.3% difference, wouldn't you have been shocked?
Well, I mean, especially with Wisconsin, that number has been moving rapidly. There's a lot of nervous Democrats in Wisconsin because not just Trump, but Hovde's polling, that Senate race there. I mean, all of a sudden, those Democrats didn't expect they'd be in a dogfight like this.
And the other thing that's interesting here, and I'm not surprised by it, and we've been talking about it for a while, but something's happening in Michigan.
Yeah.
Because like conventional wisdom, and if you talk to any pollster or anybody who's on television, is like, it's 1, 2, 3, demographically, by registration, Wisconsin would go first for Republicans, then Michigan, then Pennsylvania, right? That would be conventional wisdom. But just since the beginning of the year, something on both sides of the ledger
it's
here.
Never gone away.
It's the Michigan thing. It's the Democrats have a problem in Dearborn because of Israel and Palestine, right? Like that whole thing. And if you looked into the verbatims of a poll in Michigan, because I've seen plenty, you had like young progressives being like, Biden doesn't support Palestine enough, yada, yada, yada. And they had a problem on that side of the ledger. The other side of the ledger, those Republicans, especially in like the Grand Rapids area, that DMA, the Traverse City DMA, the smaller outer market DMA, Macomb County, Oakland County improvement. I'm thinking about congressional races like John James in Michigan 10, much better numbers than you would have expected. Like if you just looked at like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. And all I'm saying is it's something to watch. And I would not, to your point, I wouldn't have expected it to come online at this point. It would be a surprise on election night, not something we're looking forward to like winning big in.
If you're going to boil it down and you're talking with your friends over dinner, here's the deal. Joe Biden, by virtue of showing up, whether fair or unfair, given how he's governed and whatever, he has a working class appeal, right? I mean, most of you are listening to this, you don't believe any of that, and you've watched it play out, and you think it's nonsense. But he does. I mean, there's a lot of Americans.
Scranton Joe.
Scranton Joe, that's
a
been
lot
the
of
whole
Americans that just sort of like innately, he kind of talks like us. He's a little goofy and whatever. Like there is an appeal there that didn't translate. So what she solved for Dearborn,
Right.
she didn't solve for working class Michigan. And if you look at where she's underperforming right now, Grand Rapids,
Right.
Macomb County, all of these places where you have a working class population that voted for Joe Biden, probably wasn't like totally in love with his policies. They're probably in the disapprove and the approve or disapprove of the direction the country is going, but it's like willing to give this guy a shot. They have not gotten back on board.
No.
I love that you gave our audience that nugget. They're like, if you're talking to friends this weekend, if you're having dinner with some buddies, say this, Colonel, I'm going to be dropping that this weekend with my other buddies. We're going to be like, well, I'll tell you what, here's the thing. Is Joe Biden had this working class appeal and it just doesn't translate to Kamala. And they're going to be like, you genius.
Well, I mean, like,
I came up with
It's
that.
like, oh man, you're
But,
smart.
but if you look, I mean, if you look at the electoral coalition that Joe Biden put together in 2020 to beat Donald Trump, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's it. He just did a little bit better, right?
Yep.
Like where Hillary Clinton just got fucking smoked, and
Yeah.
rightly
Yeah.
so,
Yes.
in all of these places. He just did a couple points better. And that's all it took in aggregate with a lot of small counties in
Yep.
rural areas across Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania.
Well, like you said, 40,000 votes over 7 states.
Yeah, and so I mean, Joe Biden had that still, and in switching to Kamala, they lost it.
But also think back to 20. One of the things we haven't really talked about on the show a lot, but one of the things Joe Biden was running on was dissatisfaction with the government.
Right.
He just was. And what Kamala Harris is serving up to people is absolute shit. And if you don't say tasty, they're going to arrest you.
Yeah.
And she's a public information officer for the government.
Right.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with FEMA in North Carolina. There's nothing wrong with their policies
border
at the border.
security.
It does, dude. It makes you feel crazy, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like she's like, man, it's just this sucks. If only there was someone around to fix it. You know,
Well,
it's
and
like
then-
you're
and then-
currently the vice president of the United States.
And
It's
we'll
like-
get into this with the Brett Baer interview, but it's like, when did you notice that Joe wasn't on his A game? And she's like, but Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly right.
You know, you're right. I mean, that is, and people can sniff that shit out.
Yep.
One more graphic to get to. This is PA. This is a big daddy here.
Yep.
Pennsylvania, look, there's a 0.5% Trump lead here. If you would have told me this 2 years ago, I would have done back handsprings down the hallway of Ruthless HQ.
Yes.
I never would have imagined that this was possible, but this has been ground zero of this campaign. Because the Trump people smartly, and look, Susie Wiles, Chris LaCivita, they've gotten it innately from the beginning. She can't win without Pennsylvania. So they went all in. They've got ground game there. They're doing all of the things. Like if you look at the media spend in all the states where Democrats have a massive advantage, this is one that is closer to parity. Now, Democrats are still going to have an advantage, but it's an all-in proposition. This is going to be decided by you,
Yep.
and it's going to be decided by you between now and Election Day, not on Election Day. It is going to be decided by the people who, conversely from 2020, and certainly not in 2022, have decided, I need to make a plan to vote.
Right.
And the moment I think about voting, I'm just going to go do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do an early vote. I'm going to mail it in. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make sure that my vote is counted. Because I know, look, natural disaster could hit me in Philadelphia. Something could happen where a relative dies and I live in the middle of the state and I can't get back to the polling
Your
place.
kid gets sick. Who
Kid
knows
gets
what
sick.
could happen? But like, if you get that vote in early, you can check on the Secretary of State's website.
Right.
It's counted. You get that in. That's one less thing to worry about. It helps the campaign because the Trump campaign then sees, oh, this person has already voted early. We don't need to text them. We don't need to call them. We don't need to send a door knocker their way. We can deploy that to someone, a lower propensity voter who has not yet voted.
And you're watching this and it's Friday night and you don't, have a ton to do right now. After you're done watching this, go find out where you can go vote tomorrow.
Yeah.
Go
Great
do
point.
it on Saturday. Just knock it out as one of your errands.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is you might find that sort of quaint, and you're like, wow, it's not going to happen to me or whatever. But we're talking about millions of people. The statistical relevance of shit that happens in the day-to-day lives of people who intend to do one thing and aren't able to because of something is the statistical difference between winning and losing a presidential election.
Because while millions of people are voting, what is the difference between winning and losing? It's 40,000 votes?
Right.
100,000 votes?
Over several million people, what is the chances that mom has heart failure on Sunday night before an election? Well, with several million people, it's not insignificant. It's a number that you just have to make a plan for. Bank it. Just go put it in. It doesn't take any more effort than it does on election day. In fact, it takes a lot less. Lines are shorter.
Yeah, I did it on Columbus Day, and none of the libs were there because they were too busy doing land acknowledgments. So there was no line at all. It took me 5 minutes, and when you're voting no on every bond issue, it's super fast early vote. Didn't even have to
Super
think
fast.
about it. No. Trump, done.
And here's the thing. If you do your work, Dave McCormick's going to be a United States Senator. He could maybe be 51, 52, or 53 with the United States Senate. That's the only way that a Trump administration is able to govern in any effective way.
And for my fellow North Carolinians, early voting is currently underway. It's actually easier to vote early than on election day. In your county, you can go to any poll site whatsoever. Let's say you're out with the family, grabbing lunch somewhere. You're in your county, you can find the local poll sites on your phone. It's on the Secretary of State's website. The Trump website will even lead you there. Just stop by with the missus, get those votes in for Trump, and it's in the bag.
You know what else I really love about early voting is it's a great way to own the libs. And let me explain why.
I'm always interested in this.
This is so good. What do we got?
Well, it's just because, I'm never going to be fucking over it. I'm never going to be over the fact that Joe Biden gets sworn in as president of the United States, and he's going to heal our country. He's going to bring everyone. He's a uniter. He's going to bring us all together.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
First thing he fucking does is say, that Governor Brian Kemp is doing Jim Crow 2.0 with his election bill.
It's Jim Eagle.
And,
It's Jim Eagle, folks.
And
I'm not kidding.
Manfred, that cuck loser who runs the MLB, moves the All-Star game out of Atlanta.
Yep.
We have a national story. You with Wallace, Chris Wallace.
Oh, you attacked me.
Attacks you about these
For reading the statute?
reading him the statute.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's going to ban water at polling stations, as if millions of people are going to go thirsty and not know how to vote.
PolitiFact nailed me on that, by the way.
Right, yeah.
Despite the fact that I actually read them.
Oh, I remember.
What was in the statute.
Oh, I
Yeah.
remember. And then what do we find out? First day of early voting in Georgia. Broke all the records of early vote in the state of Georgia after Jim Crow 2.0.
Yeah, that's not voter suppression.
And it's like Republicans, go do that everywhere across the country and prove all these lunatics on cable news wrong. That nobody's vote is being suppressed, that we can go out there and we can vote early, bank our vote, and win.
That's great motivation.
Also, at some point when you get to purgatory, I'd like for the civil rights leaders to descend from heaven for just a couple of hours to give you a briefing on what it was like to actually
vote
get
suppression
through Jim Crow.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, just a moment, you assholes.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, look at this day in history. Graphic 5A, please, Spaghetti. So what you're looking at is where the national averages are, 24, 20, and 16. Let's just start with the average. Clinton +7, Biden +9, Harris put 1.5.
Yeah.
That is
there is
Mayday territory, pal.
Mayday. And let me just say, before you sort of freak out about a Harris 1.5, in our circles, if you do this for a living, you feel as though Democrats need a national advantage of 3 or more.
Mm-hmm.
because you get the LAs, the San Franciscos, the New Yorks, you just the population centers on the coasts that are just dogmatically Democrat. Their states are dogmatically Democrat. They're huge population.
It's why we have a Senate, not just the House.
I mean, it's the reason why they want to get rid of the Electoral College,
Bingo. Well,
right?
Like, it's also why we have a country.
Yeah.
Why we have a country. Because it's the United States of America.
Yeah.
If you didn't have the Electoral College, you didn't have this system, there would be no United States of America. You telling me like Nebraska would be particularly interested in what the people of fucking Brooklyn have to say?
No. New
Absolutely
York.
not.
Listen, what you're missing out on is the altruism of people in LA and people in Slope Park or Park Slope. I'm sorry, I said it wrong.
Park Slope.
You're missing out on the altruism that they would feel towards everyone in Iowa, Nebraska, Ohio, Indiana. They would be benevolent dictators of this country. They would really look out for the Midwest.
Provided that they chop their peens off. So let's look at a couple of these states. 6-point advantage over 20 and 16 in Wisconsin. Roughly 6 in Pennsylvania. 7 in Ohio. 7 to 10 in Michigan. 3 points roughly in Michigan. Nevada, anywhere between 4 and 5. North Carolina, you're talking about a point or 2. Georgia, point or 2. Florida, 2 or 3 points. If you notice a similarity here, you don't have to be a mathematician. It's all coming off one side of the ledger.
Yep.
Right? The one side of the ledger is the fact that Trump is overperforming where he was not only in 2020 when he lost, but 2016 when he won.
I mean, this is why you're seeing this kind of a panic from the Democrats, because they're seeing these numbers too, and they've literally done everything they possibly can. They threw Joe Biden off the ticket. They're like, things are looking bad. Mayday, Mayday. Let's just get rid of this old guy. Let's throw Kamala in there. It can't get any worse. I guess they were wrong about that one.
Not looking good for Kamala. Let's put her on Fox News. Let's send her to Joe Rogan. Let's do everything we can.
All right, so we did a little bit of this on Thursday, but let's pop this one back up. It's Nate Silver, Graphic 6. If you can see this, all of a sudden Trump popped on top. The interview with Brett Baer changed a 50-50 tie to a slight advantage for Trump. Again, if you look at the things that we're talking about in terms of game-changing moments within this discussion, they track with all of that.
Yep, 100%.
Right? I'm not
they
saying
line
it's
right up by the dates.
absolute science, but I'm saying it makes some sense. Makes some sense. Economist. Let's track number 7. So I don't read The Economist, and like the last I checked, it's basically a communist publication, which is ironic for a place called The Economist.
It is pretty sad what's happened.
But if you look at this, they've got a slight advantage for Kamala Harris. I'd love to know their breakdown to get to 273. It requires winning Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona, or some combination of Georgia and North Carolina.
They think they're going to win. What 273 is winning all of Maine and not the breakout, like not losing the breakout to the second district.
No, they have to win Omaha and they have to win the main.
But like there is a calculation where Trump wins, I think the second district in Maine and gets that one vote there, and then obviously. So I think her projection, if she was going to get to 273, is that they keep all of Maine, right, and then you keep the blue wall, I guess.
It
right?
would have to be the blue wall.
Yeah.
It would have to be the blue wall.
I will say one thing quickly. Can we get that graphic up for a quick second? So what they are doing here is they're having they run a simulation with the numbers that they put in and say that 54 times out of 100, Kamala wins, and 45 out of 100, Trump wins. For reference, in 2016, when it was Trump versus Hillary, I think they had something like 4 out of 100 times Trump wins. So yet again, it's another sign that Kamala is not where Democrats would like to be.
Also, here's the thing. A lot of the people in this line of work, and there are people who actually do spend time, like Nate Silver spends time.
Right.
I'm not saying I totally disagree or agree with his analysis and how it is. I think there's more of a right brain activity than just the straight statistics that he's got in terms of mentality and what you think of late-breaking voters and all those kinds of things. A lot of things go into politics. But what they're doing there when you say, like, oh, we've run the simulation 12 times. It's literally like no difference than like running into the wall with a heart on 4 times and being like, I don't know, 4 times it went up, 4 times it went down. I mean, it literally it makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's not. It's you're doing the variables in what you're talking about.
Listen, dude,
are not actually real. They're making it up.
That's
You're
the key part
exactly
of
right.
it.
There are very smart people like Nate Silver, and then there's the rest of the media. And anybody who's listening to this, you are just as smart as or smarter than anybody you see on TV. Just because they're talking to you from TV doesn't mean they see something you don't. You're just as perceptive. You know what's going on, so don't listen to them.
You can't. I mean, here's the thing. None of it matters ultimately. We're just trying to give you a little flavor for where everybody's at. Good, bad, and indifferent. Look at the poly markets, for example. If you look at Graphic 9.
This is a betting market.
This is a betting market. We did this on Thursday, and it was 59. She did an interview with Brett Baer, went to 62. Now, I'm not surprised that it changed, right? I mean, we all saw that with our own plain eyes, and that was not good.
I saw Call Sheets, another betting market. They tweeted out that during the Brett Baer Kamala Harris interview, someone put down a $262,000 bet on Trump winning halfway through it. So, that's how the interview
It's a
went.
specific number.
I've got my own prediction here. My first one of the election season here live on the Ruthless Variety program on a Friday evening, and I'm curious what you guys think. But like, you know, I think it's obviously going to be close. And I think it's probably going to end up closer than some of these Trump leads that we see right now, just by the nature, the fundamentals of the election. I mean, like, sober analysis here, they tried to assassinate Donald Trump.
Sober analysis tough, not right
Yeah,
now.
it's very tough.
Yeah.
But sober analysis, they tried to assassinate Donald Trump twice, and like he's not winning this thing 65-35, which like you would think he would, right? But like everybody's formulated a hard opinion of Donald Trump, so there's an upper limit to that. There just is. To your point earlier about 48.5 percentage points, like in the swing states, like that's what the Democrats were banking on. Now I think he might outperform that a little bit, but I think at the end of the day, like my number one prediction is that God has a sense of humor. Okay, and let me explain. I think the Lord has a sense of humor in these things. And so I think it's going to be very, very close. And I think Donald Trump is going to pick up some of these blue wall states and win this election. It's going to be painfully close. And I think the Democrats are going to do exactly what he did in 2020 after the election and make it, you know, they're going to file lawsuits and do all of these things. And it's going to be different this time because they're doing it.
Right. Different. That's right. ABC is going to go wall to wall with their concerns about voter fraud.
Right.
And you listen to the very sober testimony of, who's that, Mark Elias?
That's
somebody
right.
like that.
Yeah.
Who'll be like in front of Michigan basically making the Rudy case.
I'm just telling you, dude, like that's the way it's going
to be CNN. Mark, you're an impartial expert. What's your view on this law?
And again, that is why it's so important. I think it's so aptly named by the Trump campaign, Swamp the Vote. You want to get every single vote in there to make it so it's not even close. Because the thing is, you see these polling numbers, I mean, it's going to be, everyone's saying this is going to be incredibly close unless everyone who wants to support President Trump, make sure they get out there, their friends get out there. There's no excuse. Get those votes in now.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, you know, so my buddies and I used to play a game in high school where, you know, like in high school, you don't have total self-confidence. You're not like a professional or whatever. But we would have these moments where you're like, let's encounter someone with total confidence and just talk them into something and see if we can make it work. And then we would like judge it behind their back. And I remember, you know, you like go up to some guy mowing their lawn and you're like, hey, listen, this is really important. We need to get this done. Like, and we would just go out and we would talk to these people, and the guy would be like, Jesus, this guy's really 40. He must know what he's talking about. And like sooner or later, if you have enough confidence and you're doing it, like they would do it.
Yeah.
This is what I need you to do on election day.
Yep.
If you're going to make a plan to vote and you're going to go early vote anytime in the next 2 weeks, and you drive out of your driveway and somebody's mowing their lawn, you stop your fucking car. Put it in park, get out, and be like, hey, you, I need you to come with me.
Yep.
I know that you're mowing your lawn. I'll help you when you get back. But you need to get in the car and you need to vote with me, and here's how you're going to vote. And the guy's going to go do it. And trust me, that it's going to work.
And here's the thing. Do you know
Great
what that
idea.
little thing does? Is you double your support for President Trump. You're not banking one vote on your own. You're getting two.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless he's mowing his lawn and there's that Madam President Barbie yard sign in his yard, the war's already been lost.
No,
in that
case, you walk up and you kick his yard. You know, I'm not saying steal. I don't want any theft or anything like that, but you give it a kick. You let him know.
Let him know you know.
You let him know you know, and he's going to be humiliated by it. You know he is. If he's got a family, he's going to be humiliated.
Pal, if he's got that sign, he's already being humiliated inside that house every single day.
All of his high school friends are texting about him.
He gives you
that
the
much.
et tu, Brutus.
Yeah.
Look, I get this all day, pal.
But I mean,
I get this all day.
That's such a good point. Is because in your neighborhood, you know the guys who you can talk to, who you know, you'll rag on their team losing on Sunday,
Yeah.
and they'll rag on your team if your team lost on Sunday. Those are the kind of guys
Yeah.
that will be 100% down. You'll be like, hey, dude, I'm gonna go vote. Let's just do this. Let's just knock it out.
But
Get the hell with it.
And here's the thing: you're listening to Ruthless. You want to be entertained. You want to hear some informative stuff. You wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't actually concerned about the direction of your country. Not everybody is then that case. They might think exactly like you,
Yeah.
but they got shit going on. They got softball practice. They got soccer practice. They're trying to balance like 100 things. They may have a sick family member. Everything else, they're not paying attention. They don't have time to listen to Ruthless or whatever. It's up to you.
Yeah, you get them to bank that vote
up to you.
on the way to the polling place. And then on the way home, you get them to open YouTube and subscribe to the
Like
Ruthless
and subscribe.
Variety.
Like and subscribe. You just like and subscribe. So it's a twofer. You've done something
Yeah.
for you, and you've done something for us for giving this sage advice.
Just a little something for the hard work, you know?
Nobody understands that like spaghetti. buddy.
Yeah,
He
that's
does.
right.
Spaghetti
You know?
knows it.
He knows leverage like nobody's business. All right, we're going to get to some comments here. Our question of the day last week was, how are you feeling about this race? You confident? You nervous? You got a lot of good comments on this. We always start with a voice. Remember, you got to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe, particularly in a live thing.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to see anything if you don't like and subscribe this thing.
That's right.
Stop. Stop what you're doing.
Hit that
Like and subscribe for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, that was really good, Holmes. It's like almost like a ShamWow commercial right there.
But wait,
It's like
there's more.
It's like I'm on this with Billy Mays right now. That was fantastic. R.I.P. R.I.P.
Okay. Before we go to the voice has to go to the bathroom.
Oh, no.
That's live. That's live TV for you, folks.
All right, well, I'll pick right up.
You know what? Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Let's keep it rolling. Let's go to, you know what? Why don't you go to comment 2?
I'll go to comment 2. This is from Liberty or
Listen,
Death.
let me just explain. Our friend has a bit of a prostate issue.
I think it is.
Should we say?
Well, you know, he is an advanced age.
Is it of advanced
With the
age?
old-timey memes.
Yeah.
You know, and all the talk about the Great War.
Yeah.
You know?
And so, you know, we like to accommodate this. We're an equal opportunity outfit. We like to do that. And so we're going to move right on. You don't have to, as a listener, you don't have to worry about a single thing.
No.
So go right ahead, Dunks.
This is from Liberty or Death.
There you go.
They write, I am at peace about the presidential race. I do think Trump will win, and I've been praying for protection for him every morning.
It's needed, sadly.
I have also prayed that all of the things being done in darkness will be brought into light. And it appears that has been coming to pass as the lies are exposed and candidates are seen for their true colors. The one thing to remember, though, is that it is God who sets up and disposes kings and presidents, and that no matter what, he is still in control. I hope y'all will join me in praying for our nation. Absolutely.
Right on. And again,
Love it.
I mean, it is sad that we've reached a point in our country where the Democrat playbook is basically, how can we demonize our opponents? How can we silence our opponents? How can we inspire violence against our opponents? And we've seen multiple attempts made on President Trump's life, but we got to keep on fighting. We got to win this thing.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. It's also really cool and I think fulfilling. And we kind of only do this during a live episode. Like normally during our shows, we roll through this. But I can't tell you how much just emotionally in doing this show and getting your feedback and seeing how many people across the country are not only inspired by like some of the things that we talk about and we share with you guys and you share with us, but like how much you care.
Yep. These are good people. Our listeners are some good people.
Because, like, look, if you're just a dispassionate observer of what's going on in America, you could be pretty depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of you out there that are ready to fight for this thing.
Well, yeah, it is the most heartening thing of, and we get emotional thinking about it. And doing this show is, working in politics as long as we have, it becomes a numbers game, and you become a little detached from the whole thing and the outcome.
Comes left brain, analytical,
yeah,
and
like
everything else.
I imagine it happens like if you work in finance or Wall Street,
Yeah.
right? And people become numbers and things like that. And in doing this show, you get to see the human side of politics more and the people, behind it. And so, yeah, it means a lot to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. Can't thank you enough. With a relaxed prostate and a
thank
renewed
God.
vision,
Thank God.
we're going to go back to our good friend, The Voice, for comment number 1.
Comment number 1 comes from Katie Carnahan. And Katie writes, I'm a suburban mom in Georgia, and I'm feeling pretty good about Trump's chances in my state. Kamala's empty answers are an insult to the country, and I'm really not sure if she's ever had an original thought. I've wondered the same thing myself, Katie. I fear that if she's the first female president, she may also be the last. Oof. I personally don't want women as a group being embarrassed by her.
God, it's such a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Trump. She sounds like my sister. Trump's personality is off-putting sometimes, but we are voting policies and prosperity over personality. On a related note, the debate with Vance was so refreshing. He is incredibly well-spoken and knowledgeable, and it gives me great hope and excitement for the future of our party.
That's just so
Katie
well
Carnahan from Georgia.
Yeah, and I mean, if that's the sentiment, and for a suburban mom in Georgia, I feel pretty good about Trump's chances in the state. That has been an issue in the suburbs around Atlanta, so feeling pretty good about that.
I feel pretty good too. Smug, what do we got?
This is comment 3, but remember, folks, like I always say, like and subscribe if you wish to opine.
Yeah, that's what it always says.
This
What'd
comes
you say?
from Shannon Franco Randall. Shannon writes, I live in Rhode Island, so I highly doubt my community will see through the Kamala Waltz BS. But nevertheless, I still vote. That's right. I will crawl through broken glass laced with salt to vote for Trump. I may be cynical about Rhode Island, but I have hope that Americans in the swing states will vote to save the republic, not for the communist train wreck that is Kamala/Tim Walz.
Yeah.
Right on.
Shannon gets it.
If Shannon can be that pumped in Rhode Island to go out there and crawl through broken glass with salt to vote, so can you if you live in one of these battleground states. You got to do it.
Yeah, it's totally right.
Yeah.
It's just totally right. You just got to make a plan.
Yeah.
You just got to make, if you're listening, you've already sort of gotten to the place where you think you know where to, if we haven't made the case that, you let us know. In fact, maybe that should be the question of the day. Maybe that should be the question of the day. For those of you who think that we haven't made a case yet about how you should vote in November, whether it's for president or whether it's for Senate or your House member, we're talking federal exclusively because we're not, we get super deep. Let us know. Let us know. And let us know why. Because I think we try to cover as much ground as you can possibly cover. But I think that's really important. If you're still on the fence at this point, and look, we have listeners from across the ideological spectrum. Vast majority, you're going to vote for Trump. And you're going to vote for your Republican senator because you're extremely concerned that this country is going in the wrong direction. But for those of you who haven't, we occasionally get a lot of comments from Democrats who are being like, look, I kind of hate Republicans, but you guys are funny. Or, you guys make some sense on X, Y, and Z. For those of you, let's do it. And for those of you who are not, dunk on the people who have not. You know what I mean? So that's like a combo platter.
Yeah.
If you've already made up your mind and you're dunking on the people who haven't made up their mind, do that. And if you haven't made up your mind, tell us how. What do you need to know? I will spend the week researching whatever it is you say, and I will come back with a very specific platform for which applies directly to your concern.
Yeah, and if you don't believe Josh about our audience being, having some independents, having some Democrats, can I read 2 other comments?
Yeah, please do.
to you
No,
guys?
do it.
I want to read one from Fridley. Fridley writes, as a lifelong Democrat who just switched to independent last week, I can admit that I was wrong about Vance. He seems like a decent guy. Walz is the weird one. This is a comment that he left on the Vance fishing
Based
episode.
upon the Vance fishing.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Here's another one from GJ9519. I am an independent, never voted Republican, loved JD, learned a lot of respect for Trump investigating independently. They got my vote. This is the thing I love about our audience is that they trust but verify.
Yep.
They are always doing their homework. They don't just take it from people. They do it on their own because they're American.
Yeah.
They have minds and they know exactly how to use them, and they are going to vote the way they want to vote.
Well, it's a smart audience.
And that's why we ask them the questions. That's
Yeah.
why it's so important. Is
That's
because
why we do
these
it.
are the folks whose opinions matter.
And that's why we read all of them, because
Yeah.
honestly, it informs the content that we do the very next day. All right, so we need to quickly do this interview that was Wednesday night. Hi. We did some of this. Some of you may have seen it on Megyn Kelly. She covered it ad nauseum, which was great. And she did a great job of breaking down each and every answer and
Yeah.
how it was insufficient and all of those things. And then we dunked on it and whatever else. We've got a few clips that we want to show you just to react to and have you react to. Clip 1, please, Spaghetti.
Call
Let's not
Donald
diminish
Trump.
the significance
you
of that.
call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
He's
he is
unstable.
unstable.
He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this.
and-
You
and
told
we
many
should all be
interviewers
concerned.
that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden,
Whoops.
I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And
but
Donald Trump
But
is.
you talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After
is.
George Clooney said
and
within a
if
few
you
minutes of
watch
talking to President
Donald
Biden
Trump,
at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same
Brett,
Joe Biden that we saw on the debate
Donald
stage.
Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why.
I love that exchange so much because without saying it directly, what Brett Baer said was, you lied to everybody.
Yep.
Here are examples of your lies. What do you have to say to yourself?
Would
And
you like to continue to lie?
But it's just it's like an obvious question that she would be asked. How does she not have a better answer than that?
Except she was never asked.
Yeah. It took
He's
that
the
moment.
only one.
But like, how is it that you walk into Fox News knowing you're finally going to get a real interview where somebody asks you basic questions and you haven't thought about that? And that goes back to my point at the top and the top I made on the last show. It's like, you knew these risks. You took these risks. Why? It's because they know they're behind.
Yep.
Yeah.
They
Right.
just know it.
They
and,
do.
And to me, for her to then try to pivot and be like, I saw Joe Biden in the Situation Room in the Oval Office, and well, if he's all there, then why are you on the ballot?
Why are
not
you
him?
even here?
Then what happened?
And therein lies like sort of the logical fallacy of this entire campaign. She's the change agent, but she's also the one with the experience because she's currently vice president, right? She didn't need to have this job. Joe Biden was absolutely perfect in all of those meetings, but also they made a switcheroo and now she's the candidate. There's a logical fallacy at the heart of their entire candidacy, and that is why nobody's buying it here in the closing stretch.
Yep.
Let me say something I said on Megyn yesterday, which is it's super refreshing to see an actual journalist.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Like Brett is in a category of very, very few, Megyn included,
Right.
of people who give tough interviews regardless of party. Democrats are not used to this. They acted like she stormed the beaches in Normandy because she went on Fox News. This is a guy who has been widely acclaimed as the best interviewer in America.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it'd be like the Nixon Frost be like, I don't know, Frost is some kind of, I mean, Frost was some left-wing guy, but Nixon was willing to sit down. This whole situation, they acted as though it was like the Alamo.
Mm-hmm.
and she was prepared like it was the Alamo, like she was ready to attack him. And all he's asking is like, when did you notice that the guy you're working for couldn't complete a fucking sentence?
And to me, that's the heart of the deception, is because Bret Baier didn't ask a single question that your average voter would not be curious about. Do you regret opening the border? When did you notice that Joe Biden wasn't all the way there?
What would you do differently?
This is if you let any
Imagine
American
thinking
voter
that's
ask
unfair.
them.
Imagine thinking that's unfair.
And that's the thing is, they don't want to answer any questions. They're hoping to just sneak her in. They want to run out the clock. They think they can do it that way.
Single interview, Republican, Democrat, conservative, or liberal, J.D. Vance does or Donald Trump does, they're asked about January 6th. They're asked about 2020. Two very tough subjects.
They're asked about abortion. They're asked about
They're
climate
asked about
change.
abortion. They're asked about all of those things, and they navigate them. She's asked, under her watch, what happened in the last 18 months? How do you justify it? And she's like, unfair Trump.
Meh.
Yep.
I mean, that's just the way it goes. Let's go to clip 2, please.
Frankly, exhausted of Brett.
More than
People are
70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
Yeah, what are you turning it to?
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
Yeah, just
What?
like,
But you've been the person
I
holding
mean,
the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen,
It's so
over the last
embarrassing,
decade,
dude.
it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me.
it's so embarrassing. I'm like embarrassed for her.
Every time you see it, doesn't matter how many times. This is probably the 5th time we've seen it, 100th time we've seen it. You laugh every time.
Every time. But again, this is why, and I don't actually care if you're a conservative or you're a liberal, you need to appreciate people like Bret Baier. You just need to appreciate the skill set of somebody who sits down with somebody who didn't want to sit down with you. And instead of feeling honored that you got the interview, you sit down and ask the serious questions.
You do the job.
They're real questions. You do the job, and then you follow up on it. And then when she says, "You know what we're talking about," like she's basically trying to do what she does with the Breakfast Club.
Yep.
Be like,
Or
you
on
know,
The View, be
or
like,
on The
"Save
View."
me.
She's like, "You know what I'm talking about because I can't answer the question, but I'm going to pretend like you know and you get it, and because you get it and I get it, we're both cool."
Yep. And we can just move
And he's
on.
like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah, he's like, I thought I was really direct and simple. 79% of the Americans think we're on the wrong track. You say you're turning the page, but you've been in office for 3.5 years. So what's changing? And she says Trump. Like it is so painfully bad.
It
like,
is.
I'm speechless.
And remember that this occurred in the middle to the later half of the interview. The first question he asked was a very fact-based question about how many illegal immigrants have you let into this country under your administration, and she could not answer the question.
Right.
She didn't have a number. She had no idea how to answer that question.
Right. I mean, through executive orders, you undid some of the stuff that Donald Trump did at the border. Do you regret that? Like, that is a simple question.
Right.
Right? Like, why is it that she's not prepared for any of those things? And to your point, Holmes, it's because she's never had a real interview.
She's never had I just want to do one more.
Okay.
And then I want to play a game.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. We owe them King of the Hill. We didn't get to it on Thursday.
Yeah, we got to get to King of the Hill. But, like, look, what's become obvious in a lot of these states, you're seeing a lot of advertising on it, is this transgender issue. She has spoken directly to this and said what her point of view is about taxpayer funding for prisoners, of all things. And then she tried to pretend that it was like a Donald Trump issue that she's sort of inherited. I mean, it's completely insane. Let's play clip 3, please.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think it's he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters.
Well, if you notice, what she said was that you got to take responsibility for your own administration.
Yeah.
That's a tough.
But there's
it goes to the thesis statement.
Right, and there's that old saying in politics: a hit dog hollers. And what did she reference there? They spent $20 million on this attack. You know what? It's working.
That's why.
It's working. And you know why I know it's working? Because she won't say what she had previously said, and she's on camera saying, which is that I support this. She was using that, her advocacy of this, as her way of proving her progressive bona fides back in the day, where she thought that might help her in a Democratic primary, but now she knows she's taking water for this ridiculous thing.
You know what,
and so
buddy?
she won't advocate. I will follow the law.
Which is the most pathetic, weak answer.
And what a fucking coward you are.
Yep.
You know, for saying I will follow the law and trying to muddy the water and being like, well, Donald Trump didn't reverse this thing while he was president, and so therefore that means he supports it too.
I'm really glad that you mentioned the hit dog hollers, because any candidate, no matter what office they're running for, if you go to an event or you see them on the news pulling a mail piece out of their pocket,
right,
saying, my opponent is saying difficult lies about me, and I just disabuse you of this information.
Yeah.
You know that is getting to them.
Yep.
Right.
You know that Trump's ads, and you don't take our word for it. Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club, where Kamala went 2 weeks ago, was like, hey, I saw these ads during the NFL games about how she's giving, these like surgeries to trannies in prison, and I think it seems like a pretty bad thing. So don't take our word for it.
Right.
By the way, did that come up in their interview? I don't know. I didn't go through all the way to the transcript, but it certainly didn't make any of the news clips of that interview. Amazing, right? That was like a total propaganda. He's like, oh, this seems problematic to me.
Yeah.
And then she comes on the show and they're like, so Donald Trump's terrible. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Also, again, to Brett Baer's credit, when she's like, I will follow the law, and he's like, well, you're running for president of the United States. You can kind of do something.
You can
when have that
change
off.
the law.
And she's like, I will follow the law.
Yeah, right.
That's,
Public
it is
information
such
officer.
A problem for them.
Yeah, no, it's a public. That's exactly
She
right.
is a public information officer for the government. She is not the representative of the people.
It is no difference between when a murder happens in your community and they're like, well, we have a suspect detained. There are 2 bodies, and we have no further information at this time.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
People of North Carolina have received their due help, and they should be happy about it.
That's it.
No misinformation allowed.
Anyway, so we found out afterwards because of Brett and his subsequent interviews, and we did Megan yesterday, that they showed up 15 minutes late for this interview. They knew they had to have it in the box at least 20 minutes before the actual show went
Airtime for it to
live.
get uploaded.
Yeah, for it to get uploaded because Kamala didn't want to do it
Live.
live.
Right.
They wanted to do it live at tape. And Fox would only agree to do it in its entirety where they didn't edit it like 60 Minutes style. So she shows up 15 minutes late to try to truncate the time.
Right.
And then in the last 4 minutes, her aides, 4 of her aides are waving him off. This guy, I can tell you, listen, I've got a lot of respect for Brett. I've had a lot of respect for a lot of years, long before I started going on Special Report. But when you're on Special Report and you watch what it is that this guy does, and the way that he interviews people, and the way that he tries to solicit information from panelists, and the stories that they choose to cover, this is the real deal. This is what journalism used to look like. This is the Edward R. Murrow, Walter Cronkite level of information flow to voters that will help you in your decision making, good or bad. You know, he gave Donald Trump a rash when he showed up. And like, there's a bunch of Trump people who were like, I hate Bret Baier because he asked him a bunch of really tough questions. And that's fine because he's on Fox. They suspected he's going to be deferential. He wasn't. Kamala Harris shows up. He asks the real questions. And they act as though she like surfaced the moon. Like this was a bravery amongst which mankind will ever see. And it's just journalism. The difference is like Donald Trump got away, like he was done with that in like 20 seconds on to the next. He's going to like Bloomberg and everything else when he does that interview, and more of the same. It's all kind of the same. Right. JD, it's more of the same. Martha Raddatz, John Carl, all the same questions. They don't encounter that.
No.
And so they have to complain about the referee. I'm just going to tell you, we are all very lucky to have that guy doing interviews at a platform that allows him to do those interviews. Because if not for that, there are at least 4 questions there that would never have been asked.
You're right. You're exactly
would
right.
never have been asked of the person running for president that are of material interest to the voter who will cast a ballot.
You're exactly
100%.
right.
It's incredible.
Thank God for Bret Baier.
Yeah, I mean, and thanks for everybody for doing it. It's great. Let's play a game. Let's have some fun. It's Friday night, for crying out loud. You guys got your cocktails?
Yeah. Well, I finished mine.
Did you?
That's okay. But it is
Lee,
King of the Hill.
Lee, can we get him to top off?
You can get a little tip topper.
A little something. Wolf, look at Wolf. He's just a logistics man.
Yeah, just the
great
best.
man.
He's real good at it.
Great man.
Well, I mean, we missed King of the Hill on the Thursday episode. We just had a lot of stuff. We were talking about a lot of stuff. So, we figured nice little treat for you here on a Friday evening.
And
is
I'd
our
like to hear
signature
from T-Rec. He's the OG stats guy.
Yeah.
And I need him to weigh back in because we haven't talked to him a lot lately. And I'd like him to get to weigh in on this.
Oh, here it is, special delivery.
Although I fear
medicine from the doctor.
I'm the challenger.
You are the challenger. Who are you bringing?
Well, I'm going to bring Adam Kinzinger.
Ooh, that's a rare play, which I
Yeah.
appreciate. It's like using a driving iron in the fairway. You don't see that a lot out there.
You don't, but I had to go in a little different direction because the champion is Sherry Masheri.
Sherry Masheri.
And Sherry Masheri, within a 20-day proximity to an election, is a nuclear explosion.
It's going to be unhinged.
So I have to figure out a way through this cloud.
Yeah, and I'm bailiff, and I think Smug, you're
I'm the
judge.
judge.
Never seen a more fair judge or bailiff. Jerry Jacobus.
Well, let's go ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. It's time for King of the Hill. In the red corner, fighting out of his own Twitter account, Adam Kinzinger.
I love it.
And now, in the blue corner, the queen of our game and current champion of the world, Tommy Jerry Jacobus.
I have many. Yeah. I hold on.
Yeah, you think he gives it a little extra effort when he's playing?
Yeah, no, I have several objections.
I'm not sure what they might be.
The first off is the ring announcer has had sensational effort throughout 300 plus games that we've played.
Mm-hmm. But you're disappointed.
No, it's like Andrea Bocelli hitting the high note in Conte Partiro. when you're playing, you hit another level.
The queen of our game.
The queen
that
of our
was
game.
New.
Yeah.
That was new.
But this judge could not be biased.
Well, I don't think so. I don't believe that.
It's impossible.
I don't completely unbiased.
I think he's unbiased.
Well, so
this will be a hell of a matchup.
As announcer and defending champion, you have to go first here, Ashbrook.
Okay. Nikki, let's go exhibit number 12, please, for Jerry Jacobus. Exhibit 12 reads, Putin found, quote unquote, found 77,000 votes for Trump in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Election night 2016, after Trump was given secret media exit polling showing he lost and where at 5:01 p.m. Eastern. So what Sherry is alleging is that Trump was not only colluding with Putin, he was colluding with all the major networks. And as we know from observing the news over the last, I don't know, however many decades we've all been watching politics, nobody is closer to the networks than the Republican nominee for president.
Putin, you say?
Mm-hmm.
I'll play that game.
Oh, okay.
I'll play that game. Nikki, I'd like Exhibit 4, please. Adam Kinzinger writes, Trump continuing his quote-unquote friendship with Putin is an anti-American traitorous behavior. He doesn't like America, folks. He hates what America is unless it's serving his ego. I mean, listen, guys, this is a congressman who ran with Donald Trump.
Right.
Who supported Donald Trump, who was all along Donald Trump right up until he got appointed to the J6 committee. And then he gets into a point where it's like he becomes a left-wing Democrat. But the idea that he's resurrecting the Putin shit,
Yeah,
I expect it from Sherry, but friendship, traitorous, he doesn't like America. He doesn't like America. Donald Trump doesn't like. You can accuse Donald Trump of a lot of things.
So this is really interesting to me. I see, yes, there are two of the like Russia kind of hoax themes, and in trying to understand where they each come from. So Sherry, it's, by reason of insanity. In theory, I think she's kind of crazy.
Well, because she's doing the additional layers of Russiagate. Because like the Democrats, the establishment Democrats will tell you they think Putin swung the election because he spent $100,000 on Facebook ads, and then like a little bit crazier people will be like, no, he orchestrated this massive thing where he was influencing the votes in the battleground states, and like she comes in like Leroy Jenkins and she's like, no, Putin actually changed the counts in the voting machines in the swing states. She like goes the furthest level.
And Your Honor, may it please the court, she did that after President Trump colluded first with the network to get the inside information and then pass it to Putin.
And so the thing is
he
that,
could
like,
pass it to Sherry.
That's coming from a place of insanity, which is, I think she's probably crazy. So it's a mental thing. Now, for Kinzinger to do this, I think comes from a more insidious place. It's a choice, and I think it comes from greed because, like, the guy doesn't have a job anymore. I think this is the way he's trying to make money, try to stay relevant. And to me, that's more pathetic than if you're just like crazy and the voices are telling you something. For that reason, round one goes to the challenger, Adam Kinzinger.
The judge just got it in a way that is absolutely.
But funny nonetheless, though, that like they're right back to the old song sheet. It's like 2016 all over again because they have nothing else. Like no American.
The last refuge, dog.
No voter is. Oh yeah. So you're telling me that there's voters who aren't thinking about the economy, the border, crime, social issues, anything under the sun. Mortgage rates, rents. No, Russia.
It's unreal.
Like Russia is the thing you think is going to swing it for Kamala Harris. Like it's just
no. But he also look what he instinctively gets because he gets the internet is that it's not just about being insidious in money seeking. It's about the engagement,
relevance, yeah,
right. Where he knows that there's a built-in policy there, where everybody off the left is going to just engage.
There's an audience.
Because they built it over 4 years. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's there, and they're just going to say,
go back to the well.
And by the way, he defended Trump against all that. Right up until he didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. I am the challenger. I'm going to go round two, number one. I'm on Exhibit 9, please. This is thinking again about how Brett Baer used the wrong clip to discuss Trump's enemy within comment and repeatedly interrupted while still getting schooled. He's very disappointing.
Okay.
I thought he used to at least pretend to be a straight journalist, but he got crushed Because he took a side. All right.
What a take.
I got a lot. Put it back up. First of all, he tags him. Right? Engagement farming.
Well, yeah, and it's also like they really do think that there's some sort of pressure campaign they can run on Brett Baier, which is insane.
Second of all, the clip that they played was not inaccurate. They asked him the exact question that Brett said they asked, and that was his answer. So that's what they were providing. Third of all, cuz.
He's just one of the fellows.
He's just hanging out on the internet.
Using slang.
Let's work it, cuz.
I mean, he still has Slava Ukraini in his name.
And that was my fourth point. My fourth point was we're still working Slava Ukraini in the fucking handle. I mean, this is something.
There's like, this guy doesn't care about America. Donald Trump's not a patriot. Slava Ukraini. I mean,
oh, good.
So tone deaf.
Spaghetti exhibit number 7, please. Cherry Jacobus writes, subscribe to my new YouTube channel.
Yes.
Oh,
I said the quiet part out loud. Not sure why that's the quiet part that should be said out loud, but that's what she wrote. Trump supporting white women are jealous, all caps, and intimidated, all caps, by smart, successful, powerful women. Cherry Jacobus is saying any woman who supports Trump is neither smart nor successful nor powerful.
And jealous of her.
And they're all jealous of her. She's sitting at home. She's eating popcorn out of a bag she bought at the grocery store. She's drinking wine out of a box she bought at the grocery store, petting 16 cats that all breeded within the last 10 years.
She's like, these women are attacking women. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to attack women.
So, two things here. We need to see her YouTube channel first, because I think that's going to be like a...
Oh, you know what? As bailiff, I'll look it up.
What a bounty of content that's going to be.
Can we? Yeah.
And,
can we?
I mean, it's just incredible that she has reached a level of delusion that she's like, no, I'm not crazy. They're all just jealous of me. So, I mean, I'm just going to say right now, round 2, Cherry Jacobus. That's just...
I don't blame the judge.
She keeps finding new levels of delusion. It's just, I mean, it's an ability.
I think the judge was sound and fair in round 2. What do you got for me in round 3? You have to take another bathroom break?
If you have to pee again, I want to know specifics. Thickness of the stream, the duration.
God.
I feel like our audience deserves that sort of thing. You know, in fact, add that to the comments. Add that to the comments.
Are you not convinced? What it will take you to get convinced? And what do you think that John Ashbrook would need to get a thicker stream?
Well, he took a stream on the stream.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was worth pointing out. I do love my friend.
I'll take the persecution because I have exhibit number 6. Spaghetti's put it up there.
Oh, my God.
This is a mayonnaise pie with the Dorito crust, and Cherry Jacobus tweets, I'd hit that.
Oh, my God. That's a mayonnaise pie with the
I'm not sure what commentary is necessary. I think I'll leave the exhibit to speak for itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, if it please the jury, the defense as a challenger here would like to concede the round.
I mean, I think I'm going to be sick. Seeing that? Are you serious? I mean,
Exhibit number
God.
6, once again, Spaghetti's, a mayonnaise pie with Dorito crust, and Cherry Jacobus writes, I'd hit that.
I
award the round and the victory to Cherry Jacobus. God have mercy on her soul.
I don't.
It's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen.
I don't know. I don't know.
My God.
I don't know. I had a good one, and in fact, I thought it was the best of the 3 loaded up. I'm not going to try to play that. That's just not.
Well, you know, it's an honorable thing.
It's an honorable thing, carry.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you got to take the old rip
My
across the
God.
chest and just take it. I'm sorry to the audience, but it's not going to win. Nothing's going to win. All right, so enjoy the game of King of the Hill. Ashbrook, our continued champion with Cherry Jacobus. I hate to tell you, over the next 2.5 weeks, the likelihood of somebody knocking her off is really a special
I mean,
circumstance.
yeah. It's close to an election. She really brings it.
It's really, I mean, she's in a special mental
But
space.
I gotta say, I actually enjoy doing King of the Hill for these special episodes.
Yeah, this is
on
fun.
Friday.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think about making this part of the tradition here ahead of the election?
Yeah,
Not a
let's
bad
do it.
idea.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's a great idea. I love that. So remember, if you haven't made up your mind yet, if you're actually on the fence, you don't love Trump, you certainly don't like Kamala Harris, if you're in a situation where you're like, hey, I might write in my mom or my wife or my husband or somebody else, and I may just not be comfortable with whom. If we haven't made the case here on the Ruthless Variety program, write in what would make the case. I will spend hours trying to persuade you individually.
He's like Richard Gere in An Officer and a Gentleman. He's got nowhere else to go.
I will spend hours.
He's on his knees, folks.
Because believe me, I get you. I understand you. I understand what you're dealing with. I understand you don't spend all your life in this world. You don't understand, just how bad it can get or just how good it could get. I'm here for you. And I will spend time doing it. Write that in addition to his peace stream.
Yeah.
Which I think, there may be a lot of things that people have suggestions about that might be helpful for Ashbrook.
I come by it honestly. I can't help it. I had cancer. That's what happens sometimes when you have cancer. It just doesn't go as the way that you want it to go.
Well, he's a survivor, and now he made me feel bad.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's
I can't
true.
believe you attacked me.
True friendship is goofing on your friend even when he survived cancer. That's what it's all about, folks.
So good.
It's friendship.
It's friendship at its very
True
finest.
friendship.
I cannot thank you enough for joining us on a Friday night and all throughout your weekend. We'll join you again Tuesday. Listen, this has been a blast over the last couple of months. We're going to keep it going. I promise you, we're going to have a ton of variety, ton of different things. We'll lead you right up to Election Day and beyond. We're going to have a lot of fun here, and I promise you there's no one who's going to have more information than you do when you are listening to the Ruthless Variety program. So with that, Smug, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode, gentlemen. And thank you so much to the minions for listening or tuning in on YouTube. Remember, if you have not yet, like and subscribe and tell your friends to subscribe as well. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.